Previously on
Let's
board.
welcome, as always, Spike the Car Guy into the studio. How are you, my friend?
Good afternoon. I'm well. How are you?
Fantastic. Okay, so,
Yeah, as he scurries to get my notes out quickly.
yeah,
Sorry.
well, listen, before we do all of the Car of the Year stuff,
Yeah.
let's talk about the other things. For example, this US IIHS crash
Ooh,
testing,
drama.
which is a load of crock of nonsense.
It's not a crock of nonsense.
Complete
at all.
crock of nonsense.
Okay, so if you missed the story last week,
Yeah, what a load of rubbish.
The IIHS, which is the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, which is an American body. It's not a state body. It's an American association of companies that formulated this thing. And they basically do the same thing as Euro NCAP. They crash test cars to check how safe they are.
Yeah.
So what they did was they developed a particular crash test, this institute, that, before I carry on, I'll say that all their other tests are aligned with Euro NCAP. So all the testing they do is the same as Euro NCAP and all the others. But they developed their own little test because they decided they wanted to try a different kind of crash test. And the results were quite horrendous. What they did is they took a bunch of subcompact cars,
Little ones.
little cars. So things like the Toyota Yaris, things like the Honda Jazz, things like the Chevy Spark, those kinds of things.
The little Fiat 500
Little
like yours,
Fiat 500,
Daisy.
yeah.
Best car ever.
Yeah, not according to this test. And
Stop it.
what they did was, okay, so what Euro NCAP does is one of their tests is the partial front impact. So what they do is they take a deformable barrier and then they crash 40% of the front of the car into that deformable barrier.
Yeah.
So if you're sitting in the car behind the wheel, it's basically the first 40% from the outermost edge of the car, so from the right-hand side inwards. It's 40% into a deformable barrier at 63 kilometers an hour, I think it is.
Okay.
So that's what they do. And now the IIHS has come along, 64 k's an hour. IIHS has come along and said, right, what we're going to do is we're going to take the first 25%, so in other words, a much narrower section of the front end of the car, into a solid barrier. So, of course, it's a much harder impact because it's a solid barrier, but also the big thing is that 25% excludes a lot of the crash-absorbing impact structures of a chassis.
Yes.
So, whereas the NCAP test with the 40%, you get kind of deformation and
Crumbling
the
and all of those things.
The impact energy goes through the structure of the car.
Correct.
So there's far less damage. If you bypass those structures, what happens as seen in this test is that it ripped front wheels off, it ripped
scary.
doors off. It was basically a massacre of small cars, and only one car out of the 12 that they tested got what they call an acceptable rating. I don't know how exactly that equates to Euro NCAP's 5 stars.
Yeah.
But basically, it's the highest award they can give is an acceptable award, and that car was the Chevy Spark.
I know, scary.
Really?
They tested a bunch of other cars, some of which are not available in South Africa. They tested things like the Honda Fit, which in this country is the Honda Jazz. They tested the Nissan Versa, which is the Nissan Tida in this country. Hyundai Accent, Toyota Yaris, Fiat 500, Kia Rio, Mazda 2, and Ford Fiesta. And the Chevy Spark was the only one that got an acceptable result.
Scary stuff.
It is scary,
Scary stuff.
but also very interestingly, is I read up on a report that was done by another company called the Dynamic Test Center, which is a Swiss company, private company. And they said that NCAP is obviously disputing these results, saying, well, it's irrelevant because there are so few crashes that have those circumstances that the data isn't really relevant. So they don't do that test, and they don't have any plans to introduce that kind of test. But I think, considering the damage that this test did, and the kind of hoo-ha around
Agreed.
it, the manufacturers are going to have to start redesigning that little 25% front edge of their car because it's the fallout's quite horrendous.
Yeah, listen, I think you bring up a very, very good point. You know, NCAP, of course, they've got to try and defend it, otherwise they'll get put out of business. But I agree. I think manufacturers are now going to sit there and say, hold on a second. We're going to have to relook at it. But interesting stuff.
But anyway, it is a very technical subject, and there is a lot of info, and we haven't covered all of it here. What I'll do is I'll tweet a link to the IIHS website that actually shows you the video of those crash tests, and there's a guy describing everything, and there's a whole lot of other info on that. So at Spike the Car Guy, I'll tweet that link for you now.
All right, Spiky, let's turn our attention to this year's Car of the Year, where we have two, as opposed to last year we had one. This year we have two sports cars. Okay.
Yeah.
And then we have an incredible array, I think, of high-performance vehicles. This is not your regular run-of-the-mill, hello, the car of the year should be the car that most people can afford.
Yeah. Well, listen,
This is more like the super car hatchback, the best that any manufacturer can produce award of the year.
Well, ever since the Porsche Boxster won the car of the year in this country, which is we're the only country ever to have given Porsche a car. It's the only car of the year they've ever won. Was the Porsche Boxster last year? Yeah, I don't know. There's an astonishing collection of some really nice cars.
Exactly, it's mental.
There's to give an example, the Porsche Cayman is now in there as opposed to the Boxster. The Jaguar F-Type is in there. The Mercedes-Benz A45 AMG, which personally I haven't. Why did anyone recommend that car?
Yeah.
And B, it's got no hope of winning because, one of the things that is one of the criteria of this thing, and it is a very complicated process.
Mm-hmm.
It's obviously, you can't compare directly a Volkswagen Golf 7 1.4 TSI 90 kilowatt, which is one of the cars, to a Jaguar F-Type.
Exactly.
So there's all kinds of weightings and this,
No,
that, the other
100%.
criteria. Blah.
Yeah.
And one of the things they consider is how well does it do against its direct competitor.
Yeah.
And in terms of the Mercedes-Benz A45 AMG, if you compare it to the M135i BMW and the Audi S3, it's stone last in that competition.
Completely.
So I don't know what.
And twice the price.
And a huge amount more than an S3. It's
exactly.
over 100,000 rand more than an S3.
Easy.
Which is insanity.
Yeah, it's a bit.
So, I don't know. I've kind of stopped trying to guess, A, what cars are going to enter, and B, what car is going to win ever since the Porsche won last year.
last year.
But if you want to run down of the cars that are part of the Car of the Year competition, Audi A3 Sportback 1.4, TFSI manual, Jaguar F-Type 3-litre V6, not the V8, Lexus IS350 F Sport, and if I had to guess, I'd say that's probably got a very good bet.
Very good chance.
Mercedes-Benz A45 AMG, Peugeot 208 GTI, also a nice little car,
Beautiful.
but possibly not the best in its class. Porsche
Yep.
Cayman S, who knows? Renault Clio 66 kilowatt turbo dynamic, also a very nice car. Volkswagen Golf 7 1.4 TSI 90 kilowatt, and the Volvo V40 D3 Geartronic, which I also think that would be my second dark horse.
Yeah, you know what? I must say I really like the fact because the Lexus number one is a new shape, new car, new everything, and also the fact that what it comes with as standard
It is
frightening.
Yeah, and I think that for me is the one
it's
thing
a
that
big win.
stands it in good stead because Lexus is always very well spec'd.
Exactly.
There are some models in the Lexus range that do not have an options list because there are no options because everything's standard.
Everything's there as well.
Yeah.
Well, listen, terrific. I mean, Car of the Year is what, in 2 months' time at least? March?
It's in fact 19th of
Feb.
19th of Feb is when it
Oh,
happens.
my
That's
goodness
when they make the
gracious.
announcement at a gala event in Sandton.
Oh, it's going to be the
Lovely.
thing. Lovely.
Lovely.
Okay, so that's that. And then finally, you sent us a couple of pics
Yes.
of a car that might get made, and if it does, it might cost $1 billion.
At least. No, they won't make it, is what they've come out and said.
Okay.
The car we're talking about is the Bugatti. It's a concept they showed. It was called. If I can find the name here quickly, where the hell is it?
I don't even know what the name is.
Oh, it's the Galibier or the Jalib.
Jalib. Okay, yes.
It was a 4-door Bugatti that at one time was being touted as the replacement for the Veyron, and basically the head of Volkswagen has come out and said, actually, no, we're not going to make that at all because he says it'll confuse their consumers and it's not what Bugatti's about, and so no, forget about it. They've also said that there will be no more versions of the Veyron. He said that 895 kilowatts is quite enough. They won't be making another version or a super sport version or a supercharged version or a much faster version.
I think they've done okay with it.
Yeah, but although having said that, this is part of the Volkswagen group, and so is Lamborghini, and they made 10 million variations of the Gallardo.
Correct.
So who knows what's going to come out. But they have said that the Veyron replacement is actually on the drawing board already.
Wow.
And he said that there's not a lot of detail about it, but everyone's saying, well, it will be a hybrid for sure. They'll have an electric motor as part of the setup. And he says they are working on it, but he didn't say anything about when it would be launched or available.
I wonder if the head of Volkswagen actually,
Dr.
Schreiber, has this Bugatti concept as his maybe just run around.
Yeah,
It's magnificent.
It's
mental.
a beautiful car.
I love the fact that it's got 8 exhaust pipes.
Yeah, I know, of course, because you
8.
Because the Veyron's got like 17 radiators and 4 turbos,
Yeah.
so you got to be
8 exhaust pipes. Love it. I mean, listen, it's a bonkers car. It would be amazing, but I think it would cost $1 billion.
Yeah, but I think it's also it's really nice. It's a really nice position that Volkswagen have put Bugatti into.
That's for
They've
sure.
basically said, you know, with the Veyron, and I'm not sure they'll carry this through, but I don't see why they wouldn't. It's a case of, well, let's see what's possible. We don't care if we lose a bit of money on the car. It's
Exactly.
just a skunk works to see what we can develop for cars, and let's just make the best car in the world possible. And that's what they did with the Veyron.
And they proved it well.
Yeah,
You've got to say so.
And I still say that if I had the money, despite the McLarens and the Ferraris and the whatever, if I had the money, I'd buy a Veyron simply because it is the best car in the world from a performance point. Nothing else goes 400 kilometers an hour like that thing does.
And it's so quickly.
Uh-huh.
Magic. Love it. Spike Man, always a pleasure, my friend.
Thank you very much. Just one more thing.
Yes, tell us on the televisions.
RPM is back on TV.
Yippee!
It's our second episode of the series. And I've called up the wrong press release, but what I can tell you is that this week we've got the Jaguar F-Type V8 Supercharged.
Lovely.
We've got a test of the new Audi A3 sedan, 1.8 TFSI. And we go for a drive in the car that won the Volkswagen Cup last year. The VW Polo Cup.
That's a lot of fun.
It will be. So, the driver, Kursi Vaz, let us take the driver's seat and go for a few laps around Aldo Scribante. So we got that. It's all on Supersport 8 tomorrow night, 8:30.
That is superb. I look forward to that. I think it's going to be a tremendous amount of fun. All right, Spiky Man, you have yourself a fantastic afternoon. Thanks for coming through.
Pleasure. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next week.
Gears. GearsOnBalls.co.za.
Weekdays 1 p.m. to 3 p.m.